Fighter aircraft changed warfare faster than any other weapon in history. In 1914, pilots threw bricks at each other from open cockpits. A century later, stealth fighters engage enemies 100 miles away with computers doing most of the work. From fabric-covered biplanes held together with wire to hypersonic jets invisible to radar, this is the complete evolution of fighter aircraft. Every major design that changed air combat. World War I, birth of the fighter. Fokker-Eindecker. The German Fokker-Eindecker was the first fighter aircraft with a synchronized machine gun that fired through the spinning propeller without hitting the blades. Before this innovation, in 1915, pilots shot at each other with pistols or mounted guns that fired outside the propeller arc. The synchronization gear revolutionized air combat. Suddenly, one pilot with forward-firing guns could aim his entire aircraft at enemies and shoot them down. The Fokker-Eindecker created the Fokker Scourge, where German pilots dominated Allied aircraft for months until the Allies copied the technology. This single innovation established that fighters needed forward-firing guns. Nieuport 11. French Nieuport 11 biplanes were small, maneuverable fighters flown by aces like Georges Guynemer. The S.XIII designed lower wings, smaller than upper, gave excellent visibility and agility. The Nieuport featured a Lewis gun mounted above the upper wing, firing over the propeller, avoiding synchronization complexity. It could outturn German Fokkers and helped break the Fokker Scourge. The Nieuport proved that maneuverability mattered as much as firepower in dogfights. Sopwith Camel. The British Sopwith Camel became the most successful fighter of World War I, with over 1,500 kills credited to the type. This biplane featured twin Vickers machine guns synchronized to fire through the propeller, a rotary engine, and incredible agility. The Camel was famously difficult to fly. The rotary engine created massive gyroscopic forces that made it unstable, but also wickedly maneuverable in the hands of skilled pilots. The Camel established that successful fighters required both performance and numbers. Over 5,000 were built. SPAD S.XIII. French SPAD 13 fighters were faster and sturdier than Camels, favored by aces, including American Eddie Rickenbacker. The SPAD traded maneuverability for speed and structural strength, featuring twin Vickers guns and a powerful inline engine. It could dive faster than German fighters and absorb battle damage that would destroy lighter aircraft. The SPAD showed there were multiple paths to fighter success. Speed and ruggedness worked as well as agility. Fokker Dr.I triplane. The German Fokker triplane is famous because Manfred von Richthofen, the Red Baron, flew one when he was killed. The three-wing design gave exceptional climb rate and maneuverability at low speeds. Only 320 were built, but the triplane's dramatic appearance in association with the Red Baron made it legendary. The Dr.I proved that innovation didn't always mean better biplanes and monoplanes, ultimately proved more practical than triplanes. Interwar evolution. Boeing P-26 pea shooter. America's Boeing P-26 from the early 1930s was one of the first all-metal monoplane fighters. Most contemporary fighters were still biplanes, but the P-26 featured metal construction, an open cockpit, and fixed landing gear. It was faster than biplanes, but still primitive compared to what was coming. The P-26 represented the transition from wood and fabric biplanes to modern all-metal monoplanes. Polikarpov I-16. The Soviet I-16 from 1933 was revolutionary, a stubby monoplane fighter with retractable landing gear and an enclosed cockpit years before most air forces adopted these features. The I-16 fought in Spain, China, and against Germany in 1941. It was fast, maneuverable, and introduced features that became standard. The I-16 showed the Soviets were innovating aggressively in the 1930s. Messerschmitt Bf-109. Germany's Bf-109 first flew in 1935 and remained in production through World War II, with over 33,000 built. Early versions fought in the Spanish Civil War, teaching German pilots tactics they'd use in World War II. The Bf-109 featured an enclosed cockpit, retractable landing gear, all-metal construction, and a liquid-cooled inline engine. It established the template for modern fighters: sleek, fast, well-armed monoplanes. The Bf-109 evolved through the war with bigger engines and heavier armament, proving a good basic design could be upgraded continuously. Supermarine Spitfire. Britain's Spitfire is arguably the most beautiful fighter ever built, and certainly one of the most important. First flying in 1936, the Spitfire featured graceful elliptical wings, a Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, and 8 machine guns. The Spitfire's performance matched or exceeded the Bf-109 throughout the Battle of Britain. Over 20,000 were produced in dozens of variants, each more powerful than the last. The Spitfire became a symbol of British resistance and proved that aesthetics and performance could coexist. World War II, the Golden Age. Mitsubishi A6M-0. Japan's Zero shocked the Allies in 1941. This carrier-based fighter featured exceptional range, maneuverability, and firepower. Early in the war, Zeros dominated Allied fighters through superior agility and experienced pilots. The Zero achieved its performance through minimal armor and no self-sealing fuel tanks. It was a glass cannon. Once Allied pilots learned to avoid turning fights and use superior speed and firepower, the Zero's weaknesses became fatal. The Zero showed that optimization for one aspect of performance created vulnerabilities elsewhere. Hawker Hurricane. The Hurricane doesn't get the glory the Spitfire receives, but Hurricanes shot down more German aircraft during the Battle of Britain. This rugged fighter featured fabric-covered wings and a Merlin engine like the Spitfire, but was cheaper and easier to build. Hurricanes were stable gun platforms, excellent for destroying bombers. Over 14,000 were produced, and they served globally, including Russia and North Africa. The Hurricane proved that workhorse reliability mattered as much as glamorous performance. Focke-Wulf fought Fu-190. Germany's Fu-190 shocked RAF pilots when it appeared in 1941. This radial engine fighter was faster than Spitfires, had low altitude, better armed, and easier to fly. The wide-track landing gear made it safer for inexperienced pilots, and the radial engine was rugged and reliable. Over 20,000 were built in fighter and ground attack variants. The Fu-190 forced the RAF to develop better Spitfire variants and proved radial engines could power excellent fighters. P-51 Mustang. The American P-51 Mustang became the best escort fighter of World War II. Early versions with Allison engines were mediocre, but installing Rolls-Royce Merlin engines created a fighter with performance matching German fighters plus range to escort bombers deep into Germany. The laminar flow wing gave efficiency that enabled range exceeding 800 miles. Mustangs destroyed German fighters over their own airfields, achieving air superiority over Germany. Over 15,000 were built. The Mustang proved that strategic impact mattered more than pure performance. Its range changed the air war. Lockheed P-38 Lightning. The American P-38 twin-engine fighter featured distinctive twin booms and a central nacelle. With two Allison engines, the Lightning was fast at altitude, heavily armed with cannon and machine guns, and had excellent range. P-38s served in every theater, and aces, including Richard Bong, achieved massive scores flying them. The unusual configuration created challenges, but also advantages. Losing one engine didn't mean immediate death. The P-38 showed unconventional designs could succeed. Republic P-47 Thunderbolt. The American P-47 was massive, the largest single-engine fighter of the war at 7 tons. Powered by a turbocharged radial engine, the Thunderbolt could fight at 30,000 feet and dive faster than anything. It was rugged enough to absorb battle damage that would destroy other fighters and carried bombs and rockets for ground attack. Over 15,000 were built. The Thunderbolt established that size and weight weren't disqualifications if the engine was powerful enough. Yakovlev Yak-3. The Soviet Yak-3 was a lightweight fighter optimized for low-altitude performance where most Eastern Front combat occurred. Simple, cheap to build, and easy to fly. The Yak-3 could outturn and outclimb German fighters below 15,000 feet. Thousands were produced, and Soviet pilots loved them. The Yak-3 proved that optimizing for the actual combat environment mattered more than theoretical maximum performance. The jet age arrives. Messerschmitt Me-262. Germany's Me-262 was the first operational jet fighter entering service in 1944. With two Jumo jet engines, the Me-262 was 100 miles per hour faster than any Allied fighter. It could destroy bomber formations, and Allied fighters couldn't catch it. But the jets were unreliable, fuel was scarce, and Allied air superiority meant most were destroyed on the ground. Only about 1,400 were built, but the Me-262 proved jets where the future piston engines had reached their limits. Gloucester Meteor. Britain's Meteor was the only Allied jet to see combat in World War II, though it arrived too late to affect the outcome. Twin jet engines made it as fast as the Me-262, and unlike German jets, Meteors were reliable. They served into the 1950s, proving the British could build practical jet fighters. The Meteor showed that operational reliability mattered as much as raw performance. Early Cold War jets. F-86 Sabre. The American F-86 Sabre featured swept wings, copied from captured German research, making it transonic in dives. The Sabre fought MiG-15s over Korea in the first jet versus jet combat, with Sabres achieving a 10-to-1 kill ratio through superior pilot training and slightly better performance. The Sabre was stable, well-armed, with .650 caliber guns, and relatively easy to fly. Nearly 10,000 were built for the U.S. and Allies. The Sabre established swept wings as standard for supersonic fighters and proved jet combat was fundamentally different from piston-engine dogfighting. MiG-15. The Soviet MiG-15 shocked the West when it appeared over Korea. This swept-wing jet was as fast as the F-86, climbed faster, and mounted powerful cannons. Thousands were built and exported globally. The MiG-15 proved the Soviets could build world-class fighters, and its performance forced the West to accelerate jet development. The simplicity and ruggedness of Soviet design philosophy made the MiG-15 reliable and easy to maintain, critical for less developed nations. F-100 Super Sabre. The American F-100 was the first fighter capable of supersonic speed in level flight when it entered service in 1954. The Hun featured swept wings, an afterburning engine, and could exceed Mach 1.3. Early F-100s had stability problems that killed pilots, but improvements made it effective. Over 2,000 were built, serving in Vietnam as fighter bombers. The F-100 established that supersonic performance was achievable and desirable. F-104 Starfighter. The American F-104 was designed to be a pure interceptor, minimum size, maximum speed. With tiny straight wings and a powerful engine, the Starfighter could reach Mach 2 and climb like a rocket. It was also dangerous to fly, killing hundreds of pilots, and its short range and minimal payload limited usefulness. The F-104 represented the missile with a man in it, philosophy that proved too extreme. Sometimes designers optimized the wrong things. The Century series and beyond. F-4 Phantom II. The American IV Phantom became one of the most important fighters of the Cold War. Originally designed as a Navy fleet defense interceptor, the Phantom was large, powerful, and carried massive payloads of missiles and bombs. It could exceed Mach 2, carry up to 16,000 pounds of ordnance, and operated from carriers or land bases. The IV served in Vietnam extensively, proving adaptable despite being designed without an internal gun. Over 5,000 were built for the U.S. and Allies. The Phantom established that multi-role capability mattered more than optimizing for one mission. MiG-21. The Soviet MiG-21 became the most produced supersonic fighter in history, with over 11,000 built. This small, simple delta-wing fighter was cheap, fast at Mach 2, and could operate from rough airstrips. MiG-21s fought in Vietnam, the Middle East, and dozens of conflicts. The design prioritized ease of production and maintenance over sophistication. The MiG-21 proved that being good enough in vast numbers beat being excellent in small numbers for most air forces. F-14 Tomcat. The American 14 featured variable sweep wings that could move from extended for takeoff and landing to swept back for supersonic flight. Designed for fleet defense, the Tomcat carried Phoenix missiles that could engage targets over 100 miles away. The 14 looked spectacular, performed brilliantly, but was expensive and complex. Fewer than 700 were built, serving U.S. Navy carriers, until retirement in 2006. The Tomcat represented peak Cold War fighter design, sophisticated, powerful, and expensive. F-15 Eagle. The American 15 was designed for air superiority after Vietnam showed the IV's limitations. With twin engines, massive power-to-weight ratio, and advanced radar, the Eagle dominated everything it faced. 15s achieved over 100 kills in combat, with 0 losses in air-to-air combat, an unprecedented record. The 15 can accelerate vertically, reach over Mach 2.5, and carries up to 8 air-to-air missiles. Over 1,000 were built, and upgraded versions remain in service. The 15 proved that if you designed a fighter to dominate air combat and gave it overwhelming power, it would. F-16 Fighting Falcon. The American F-16 was designed as a lightweight complement to the heavy 15. This single-engine fighter features a frameless bubble canopy, giving pilots unmatched visibility, fly-by-wire controls, and a side-stick controller. The F-16 is incredibly maneuverable, relatively cheap, and multi-role. It excels at both air-to-air combat and ground attack. Over 4,600 have been built for the U.S. and dozens of allies, making it one of the most successful fighters ever. The F-16 proved that smaller, simpler, and cheaper could be as combat effective as large, expensive fighters for most missions. MiG-29. The Soviet MiG-29 was designed to counter the 15 and F-16. This twin-engine fighter features excellent agility, advanced radar, and the ability to operate from damaged runways, using doors that close over engine intakes during takeoff to prevent debris ingestion. Over 1,600 were built. The MiG-29 proved Soviet designers understood Western capabilities and could match them. though economic collapse prevented full-scale production and upgrades. Su-27. The Soviet Su-27 was designed as a heavy fighter to counter the 15. This massive twin-engine fighter features stunning aerobatic capability, long range, and heavy armament. The Su-27 family evolved into the Su-30, Su-35, and Su-57. Over 800 were built, and Chinese copies add thousands more. The Su-27 established a Soviet design philosophy emphasizing supermaneuverability, the ability to point the nose independent of flight direction using thrust vectoring that continues today. Fourth generation plus. F-A-18 Hornet. The American F-A-18 combined fighter and attack roles in one airframe for Navy carrier operations. Reliable, relatively easy to fly, and capable of both air-to-air and ground attack missions. The Hornet replaced multiple specialized aircraft on carriers. Over 1,000 were built. The larger Super Hornet variant added range, payload, and capability. The Hornet family proved multi-role was the future specialized fighters were too limiting for modern warfare. Eurofighter Typhoon. European countries collaborated to build the Typhoon, featuring canard delta configuration, supercruise capability without afterburners, and advanced avionics. Over 600 have been built for Britain, Germany, Italy, and Spain. The Typhoon represents European fighter capability, independent of American designs, politically important even if more expensive than buying F-16s. Dassault Rafale. France developed the Rafale independently, creating a canard delta multi-role fighter capable of carrier and land operations. The Rafale features advanced sensors, network-centric warfare capability, and can carry nuclear weapons. It's expensive but capable, serving France and export customers. The Rafale proved France could independently develop world-class fighters, despite the cost. JAS-39 Gripen. Sweden's Gripen is a lightweight, multi-role fighter designed for dispersed operations from highways during wartime. The Gripen features advanced avionics, ease of maintenance, and low operating costs. It's not the fastest or most powerful fighter, but it's effective and affordable. The Gripen showed that smaller nations could develop competitive fighters by optimizing for their specific needs. Stealth era. F-117 Nighthawk. The American F-117 wasn't technically a fighter, it was a stealth ground attack aircraft, but it revolutionized air warfare. The faceted design scattered radar returns, making it nearly invisible to enemy radar. F-117 struck Baghdad in 1991, proving stealth worked in combat. Only 64 were built, retiring in 2008. But the F-117 established that radar invisibility changed everything. F-22 Raptor. The American F-22 combined stealth, supercruise, advanced sensors, and unprecedented performance. This fifth-generation fighter can cruise supersonically without afterburners, engage enemies beyond visual range while remaining undetected, and dominates any fourth-generation fighter. Only 187 were built due to cost over $350 million per aircraft. But the F-22 represents the peak of current fighter technology. Pilots describe it as cheating the capabilities gap is so enormous that adversaries have no chance. F-35 Lightning II. The American F-35 is designed as a multi-role stealth fighter affordable enough to build in thousands. 3 variants serve the Air Force, Navy, and Marines with different capabilities. The F-35 prioritizes sensors and networking, sharing battlefield data with other F-35s and friendly forces. It's not as agile as the F-22, but can operate from carriers and forward bases. Over 1,000 have been built with production continuing. The F-35 represents a philosophy shift. Networked operations and sensor fusion matter more than individual dogfighting performance. Su-57. Russia's Su-57 is their attempt at a 5th-generation stealth fighter. It features stealth characteristics, advanced avionics, and super maneuverability. But production has been minimal, fewer than 20 built due to cost and technical challenges. The Su-57 exists more as a technology demonstrator than operational fighter. J-20. China's J-20 is their indigenous stealth fighter, featuring canard delta configuration and internal weapons bays. The design suggests emphasis on long-range strikes rather than dogfighting. Exact capabilities remain unclear, but over 250 have been built. The J-20 proves China can develop advanced fighters, though performance compared to F-22 and F-35 remains debated. Next generation. NGAD. The American Next Generation Air Dominance Program aims to develop 6th-generation fighters featuring AI integration, optionally manned operation, and collaboration with autonomous drones. Details remain classified, But NGAD represents a shift toward distributed operations, where manned fighters command AI-controlled wingmen. The focus is system of systems rather than individual aircraft performance. Tempest. Britain leads European development of the Tempest 6th generation fighter for service in the 2030s. Tempest aims to integrate AI, directed energy weapons, and swarming drone capabilities. Like NGAD, the emphasis is networking and AI rather than traditional performance metrics.